we're not just waving an anime symbol, we're declaring that the fight for justice, for truth, for a better life belongs to everyone.
Sometimes you cannot criticize the government directly. So this is one part of the way where the people can actually avoid the harm or the danger that could come with it.
Hey, it's Hannah here. Welcome to What in the World, your podcast for the stories that get people talking from the BBC World Service. Today you're going to hear why a cartoon pirate flag is being waved at protest movements around the world, from Morocco to Indonesia. Gen Z have been using this symbol at huge rallies. It's basically a cartoon skull and crossbones, and it's got a straw hat, and it's from the hit Japanese manga show One Piece, which recently got a live-action makeover on Netflix. But if you've never heard of One Piece, don't worry, we've got you covered. We're going to explain why it's such a big deal and how it's become a symbol of protest. First of all, let's get into One Piece with journalist Lanisha Campbell, who hosts podcasts on entertainment and anime. Hey, Lanisha.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show.
Great to have you. For someone who has never watched One Piece, can you explain what it is?
Oh, okay. So in a nutshell, without me getting out my whiteboard, it is this story that's spanned over 2 decades now, but it's a story about a young boy who wants to become a pirate, who has dreams of becoming the Pirate King, and to do that, he has to find this secret treasure called the One Piece. That is very high level about what it is. Like it's a very popular shonen series that was created by Ichiro Oda. But beyond, not even beyond, beneath the surface level of the story of it just being about a story about pirates and adventure and following one's dreams and freedom, there is a lot of nuance to the story as it explores a lot of different layers and themes, such as politics.
And that is one of the reasons why the symbols from One Piece are now being used in a political sense. And this show's been going for decades, right? It started in 1997, and it's really popular around the world, right?
Yes, there are fans of One Piece all over the world, so it's no shock to see. Actually, it makes me very happy to see people to understand what that symbol represents for them and seeing that it resonates with them the same way it resonates with me.
You mentioned that it's also got these political undertones. Can you talk me through some of those political themes and symbols in One Piece?
Absolutely. So through many of the arcs in One Piece, Ichiro Oda has explored a lot of different themes and politics. And I think it's one of those things where it's kind of like a head fake. One of my favorite authors, they talk about this thing called a head fake, where you think you're learning or seeing a story about one thing, but you're actually being taught about another thing.
I
think, yeah, and I think that's the best way this series resonates with people, because you think it's just a story about a young boy wanting to become a pirate. But then as you get into the different stories and the arcs, there's an arc where they explore the slave trade, where they know that slavery is technically legal, but it's still this heinous thing that happens. And the main character, Luffy, hates the idea that anybody is shackled, that their freedoms are oppressed. There's the idea of government corruption with the world government, because in One Piece, the word government is this system that sits above the Marines, so they're above the law. But then they have other people, kind of like a shadow government, who are running it. But in a way, you see how it's built on corruption. And these 5 elders, that's what they're called. They are the ones who are running things in secret. But it's like things that focus on, environmentalism, exploitation, drug abuse. I could go on and on with the very, very many themes that One Piece explores. So while this is a kid's show, this is a show that's been geared towards children. I think it does really explore the ideas of how dangerous unchecked power, supremacy, or even the idea that there is one group of people that should reign over others. And it explores what that looks like in a very, I want to say, not childish, because there are some darker themes, but it does explore that theme in a way that children can understand it, but also people of any age can understand it too.
I mean, like Harry Potter was originally meant for kids, and that goes really dark. I mean, there are plenty of ways in which case these popular cultural references series can permeate culture and can become symbols of something much bigger. And the one symbol that really seems to have resonated, particularly with Gen Z, and we're talking movements around the world here, is the flag. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I even have it on my sweatshirt here, and it's somewhere on my wall. But this symbol, the Jolly Roger, it is from Luffy's flag. So every pirate crew, they have a Jolly Roger, and it means something to them. Like it represents them on the seas. But also, an interesting thing that gets into the series later on is that some pirates will protect areas. Like they'll have islands that will fall under their protection, and it's their way to keep those people safe. And basically, giving them that flag and them having that flag shows that they are under their protection. I think when you go another layer, Luffy's Jolly Roger represents freedom. It represents pursuing one's dream, and it represents like so much. And it sounds silly that like something as simple as this icon can represent all those things, but I think that's the main point is that it's very simple, it's very resonant, and it connects with people around the world if they understand the story.
Lanisha, thank you. Thanks. One of the countries where people have been using this flag is Madagascar, and young people have been protesting there too. It started out as frustration over water cuts and power cuts, but it has since morphed into something bigger. And here is Mika to tell us why he's protesting and using the One Piece flag.
It all started as a protest against the government failure to meet the most basic human needs, access to clean water and electricity. Power cuts or water shortages have become part of daily life of most of the Malagasy people today. In short, Gen Z Madagascar is fighting for the liberation of all Malagasy people from a cartel-like system that exploits the country's resources for the benefit of a small elite. In One Piece, a so-called world government is meant to maintain order and protect everyone, but in reality, it uses its power to preserve the dominance of an almost godlike political and economic elite, the Celestial Dragons. When we raise Luffy's flag, we're not just waving an anime symbol, we're declaring that the fight for justice, for truth, for a better life belongs to everyone, to every Malagasy people.
Now you're going to hear about the flag in protest movements in other parts of the world, like Southeast Asia. And I'm speaking to Panisa Imocha, a BBC journalist in Thailand. Hey, Panisa.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good. Great to have you back. Tell me a bit about how protesters in countries in Southeast Asia are using references and characters from One Piece in their protest messaging.
So in August, there's a political scandals in Indonesia, and that's where this flag began to appear. And later in Nepal, similar, with different reasons, the similar flag reappears again because the youth are now fed up with the social media ban of the government and a lot of elitisms in the country, so they want to do the protest. And as a symbol to actually protest against the government, they use the same flag from One Piece. And later at the Philippines in September, with the scandals involving the financial aid or the financial budget that's supposed to help the Filipinos about the flooding crisis, is got corruptions, and people in the Philippines end up have to suffer from flooding as well. So you can see that these three countries with these three movements, they have quite a few things in common, right? They have the youth-led as well as a common theme, and also they use this flag as a common theme as well.
So starting with Indonesia, then Nepal and the Philippines, do we know if these protest movements are imitating each other, or if they're organising together, if they're using social media? Are they all part of one wider movement, in fact?
All these three protests, right? There's actually a lot of protests going around the world at the moment. But if we focus particularly on these regions, you've seen that it's actually youth-led. And they are Gen Z, basically people from age 13 to 28 years old. These are a group of generations of people who born and raised with digital world, so that's why they use digital to form this. Actually, the expert and analyst told the BBC that the one thing in particular in common of these youth-led protests is that they are leaderless, right? They don't have hierarchy in that, they're horizontally organized, and then they use digital space. So this is one part of them. So the analysts argue that they actually some legit sign to imitation, and they're learning across from each other.
And it's not just One Piece, is it? I mean, throughout history, there have been all kinds of popular and cultural references that have been used in different protest movements. And I read that the Thai government actually banned the use of the Hunger Games salute. That was used in protest too.
Yeah, so pop cultures or even meme is not news. It has been used in protests or demonstrators all the time. And when you talk about the three-finger salute, it was used in Thailand, it was later used in Myanmar against like the youthless of Myanmar protests against the military coup as well. So this is widely used. And actually, if we go back or we look worldwide, manga is not only one piece that's been used as demonstrators. There's a lot of manga that the storyline is talking about how the suppressors trying to overturn the government. We have Attack on Titans, we have Naruto, or actually we actually have protesters using cute or non-threatening figure to be actually the symbol as well. So we have Pikachu from the Chile in 2019, and in Thailand we also use Pikachu as well.
And there was famously Pepe the Frog was used by pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong. And do you remember The Handmaid's Tale, that show? It was massive. People also used, women dressed in the red cloaks and the white bonnets from The Handmaid's Tale as a sign of protest as well. Why do you think it is that Gen Z is using One Piece symbols, though, in particular?
One of the reasons that One Piece is very viral is because in the storyline itself, just, the representations of its own, that it's trying to fight for the freedom. Another part of it is actually when I talked to one of the experts, they seen Gen Z using symbol, using cute character, using One Piece as a way of the weapon of the weak. Because sometimes you cannot criticize the government directly because they have the military with them, they have the police with them. So this is one part of the way where the people can actually avoid the harm or the danger that could come with it, but still they can still criticize, they can still point to the fact of what they want to talk to people, not only people in the country. It's also, you've seen this movement that these Gen Z people trying to talk to people from outside country as well. They're trying to get the support from other nations, especially on social media.
And this really ties into meme culture and emojis and the way that people use these kind of symbols and online tools to try to evade censorship and to share political messages. Panisa, thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's it from us today, but if you like this episode, we're on the BBC World Service YouTube channel 5 days a week, and 2 of those we are here chatting away in the studio. So come and find us here. I'm Hannah. This is What in the World from the BBC World Service. We'll see you soon.